Well, welcome to the new series that I'm doing here on science and the Bible. This is a lecture format, not my typical format. So this is a lecture format, and going to cover lots and lots of topics related to science and the Bible. So we're going to start off this particular series with the question of what is science, which of course is really, really important. So let's have a look at what science actually is. Exactly what science is does have a number of different definitions depending on who you're talking to, but I think this one is one of the best, and that is that science is a process of getting a constantly closer approximation of physical reality using observation and experimentation. A couple of important points in this definition. Number one, science is a process. In science, you never actually get to the truth. You are always getting closer and closer to the reality of the way things actually are in the physical universe. So you're always getting closer, but you never actually get to that reality. You never can explain that reality completely and say, I have found the truth. That's the point of science. It's a process. It continues. It's constant. It's not like special revelation like Scripture, which has a set of propositional truths which are absolutely true, or at least the Scriptures claim that they're absolutely true. And of course, I believe that as a Christian. So science is different. Science is a process that's sort of constantly getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to that reality, to that which explains what physical reality actually is, but never actually gets there. And it does that using observation and experimentation. The other thing that's important about this is it's talking about physical reality, the physical universe. So plants and planets and stars and rocks and humans and animals. Anything that is physical, that is what science looks at investigating. Science cannot investigate things like love. It can't test things like love. It can't test things like morals or ethics. It can't decide that a painting is beautiful. These things are completely outside the realm of science. So when we're talking about science, we're talking about the physical universe, and we're talking about constantly getting a closer approximation of it. All right, so let's talk about the scientific method. The scientific method is a way in which we conduct science. And if you go online and punch in the scientific method, as I did, that's what this screenshot is showing here, you'll see a whole bunch of these flowcharts. When you're trying to talk about the scientific method, there's always a flowchart, and there are hundreds of them when you do a Google search for the scientific method, and they're all different. So it actually gets quite confusing when you're looking at all these different flowcharts trying to explain what the scientific method actually is, which just goes to show there actually isn't a scientific method. There isn't the scientific method. There's no such thing. People have different ways of conducting science using their particular model of what the scientific method is. However, having said that, there is a general consensus on what the scientific method is, and I've got my own flowchart that I've put together to explain what the scientific method is. So I've conceptualized it this way, and I think this is the best way. It's a simple way of explaining what the scientific method actually is. And so we have a flowchart. Remember, it's a process, and so in our flowchart, you see the arrows start. Well, actually, they can start anywhere, but they start in observation, they go round in a circle, and they go back into the observation at the top. So it is a process. It's something that continues and never actually stops. It has four parts: observation, hypothesis, an experiment or a test, and then interpretation and conclusion, which then feeds back into an observation. So let's have a look at each of these different things. So the first thing we want to look at here is observation. The first thing that has to happen is you've got to observe something. And an example would be a growing plant. You look at a plant day after day, and you begin to ask yourself questions. And you begin to ask yourself questions like, how does this plant survive? Now you notice that the plant gets water, it gets fertilizer, it gets sunlight, and you begin, because you're a critical thinker and you want to know how plants survive, you begin to ask questions about how this plant survives. So your observation is not just a sort of a first time observing something. It's actually something that you've been doing for a while. You've been observing something and you've been starting to create questions in your mind. That's the first thing. So the first thing is an observation of something that's occurring in the physical universe. The second thing you need is a hypothesis. So I think the best way to define a hypothesis is simply taking an educated guess about why this phenomena is occurring. So for example, with the growing plant, you could take a guess and you could hazard that it has to do with light, or it has to do with water, or it has to do with fertilizer, or it has to do with where it was placed on the windowsill, or maybe some other factors as well. But any of these things are guesses, but they are educated guesses in that you've sort of seen these things occurring during your observation. So the hypothesis then is just kind of taking a guess. I think that the reason the plant is surviving or growing well is because of water. That would be an educated guess. And you can actually put that into a hypothesis using the words if and then. Typically all hypotheses have these words if and then. And so here is an observation that's been sort of turned into a hypothesis. I think that if plants are watered, then they will grow. Now, you could have constructed a different hypothesis. You could have constructed a hypothesis like, I think that if plants get sunlight, they will grow. Or if plants get fertilizer, or if they get a certain kind of fertilizer, they will grow. Or they will grow better. So there are many, many different hypotheses that can go into your observation. But what's important about a hypothesis is you have to have one variable. You can then conduct other tests, create other hypotheses for other variables, but every hypothesis has to have a single variable. It's the one thing that you want to test. And so if I was going to construct, well, I've got the hypothesis here. I think that if plants are watered, then they will grow. And that brings us then to the next thing, which we want to do, which is sort of to construct an experiment or a test. I want to be able to test my hypothesis. And my hypothesis is, well, if plants are given water, then they will grow. Now, it's important when we are constructing a hypothesis to have a control group and an experimental group. What's the difference? A control group is the thing that's receiving the treatment. In this case, the treatment is the water. The experimental group doesn't receive the treatment. So the thing that you're testing for, that variable, that's the treatment. If we were doing some kind of conducting a test on some medication, for example, the treatment would be the medication. The control group would be the people who don't get the medication. They would get a placebo. And the experimental group would be the people that do get the treatment. So I've got to create an experiment, and of course, as I'll show shortly, this isn't always the case. You can't always have a control group and an experimental group. In this case, you can. I'll talk about that later. But I can create a control group, and the way I would do that is I might have, for example, a flower pot. Actually, I'd have two flower pots. And I'd want to make sure that the flower pots are exactly the same size. I'd fill them with the same amount of dirt and give them the same amount of fertilizer. And then what I might do is I might put 10 seeds in each of the flower pots. So I'll just put a few dots here that represents the seeds. So I've got 10 seeds that go inside the flower pot, and maybe I'll put them on a windowsill. Okay, here's the windowsill. But they have to be on at exactly the same place on the windowsill, or in another windowsill that's exactly the same, getting the exact amount of light that the other one's getting. And the reason for that is these are all variables, but you're testing for a single variable, and that is the water. So what you want to do is you want to keep all the variables exactly the same. So here we have a situation where all the variables are the same. Again, these plants are both getting the same amount of light, they've got the same amount of seeds, same kind of pot, same kind of fertilizer, they're on the same place in similar kinds of windowsills, or the same place on a single windowsill. You want to try as much as possible to keep all the variables the same. The only thing different is going to be the water, which means this plant over here, if this one is going to get the water, so here is my bad attempt at a watering can, so that one is going to get the water and this one does not get the water. So can you tell which one's the experimental group and which one is the control group? Yeah, so this one here is going to be the experimental group because it's getting the treatment, the water. This one is going to be the control group because it's not getting the treatment. And of course, over a few days, my seeds begin to grow in the experimental group. That's the group that's getting the water. And sure enough, my plant grows, but over on the right, the one that doesn't get water, the plants die. And that's my experiment. And through that experiment, I conducted this experiment, and so here I've been using my experiment or my test, and that leads to an interpretation and a conclusion. I've conducted my experiment, and I've shown pretty well that indeed plants need water to survive. However, the process of science doesn't stop there. That conclusion then feeds back into more observations so that different people can participate in the science that I conducted and come up with their own hypotheses and conduct their own experiments. So that's the end of this section. In the next section, we're going to look at problems or weaknesses with the scientific method. So come back for that. Thank you.